Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and my name is Kesh, and welcome back to day 3 of Autumn Fair 2021. And hello to everyone joining us virtually as we are live on the Autumn Fair app. If you are joining us virtually, please don't forget to get your questions in by the Ask the Speaker function on the app. Right, next up is the talk, which needs no introduction, with the keynote conversation of the exhibition discussing the evolving shape of UK retail. Please put your hands together for Theo Paphitis, entrepreneur and editor for World Retail Congress, Mark Faithful.
Good afternoon, everybody. Wonderful to see so many of you here. Thank you very much. As they said, my name is Mark Faithful. I'm the editor of World Retail Congress, and I cover retail. Well, I've been covering retail for a long time now, and all the trials and tribulations that go with it. In a couple of moments, I'll introduce Theo, although I suspect that 99.99% of you know who he is already. But just to sort of set the framework for today, I think we've got the best part of an hour or three-quarters of an hour to talk about what's going on in the retail sector. Pretty quiet at the moment, so probably not that much to chat about, I should imagine, no. And you guys will get an opportunity to ask some questions later on as well, so don't be shy. Let's get some questions. You've got a great opportunity to tap into somebody who's been there, seen it, done it, so use the opportunity while you have it. I just wanted to just set the context very, very briefly in terms of how we're going to what we're going to be looking at today. I think we all know, and you guys probably more than anyone, what a challenge the last 18 months have been, and certainly things that people haven't encountered before. Hopefully we're through, well, at least the immediate worst of that, and into whatever the new reality is. We're also into a very key trading period, obviously coming up towards Christmas. Hopefully there are lots of reasons to be cheerful and positive, which is what we're here for really today, to talk about what can be done, what the opportunities are, where as everything falls out and into place, we can actually look at where we can take businesses forward. So I'm delighted to welcome Theo, who's apart from being a media star, obviously, is also a serial retail entrepreneur and has launched a lot of businesses in very trying circumstances in terms of the economy as well. So he'll have a lot of insights on that. But first thing I was going to ask you, Theo, really was, as I say, a lot of people know about your background, but what's keeping you busy at the moment in terms of your businesses? Where's your main focus?
Main focus now? God, it's loud. Well, I've just had an amazing 6 weeks off work. That's been brilliant. I took the decision that there was so much shit around that the minute we're allowed to travel, and those half-wits we call politicians made their mind up about where we could go, where we couldn't go, why we could do this, how many times a day we could go to the toilet, why it didn't matter if we went to the toilet, why we had to go to the toilet. I would just take some time off and make up for the time we've all recently lost. So I know how lucky I am to have been able to do that. But it was great, because it gave me a wonderful opportunity to sit back on the sidelines, didn't do any radio shows, no TV shows, no punditry, nothing. I had loads of phone calls, loads of WhatsApps from all these little producers from doing radio stations and TV news channels and everything else. And I said, I'm not doing any. I'm just going to read the papers, talk to the kids, talk to Mrs. P, which now and again I have to do, but there we are. No, she was really grateful. No, she said I should get back to work. But on a serious point, it was great, because I could really sit from afar and just take things in context without being absolutely stuck under all the rubbish and the crap and everything else, and see the wood from the trees. And it started becoming clear to me that we are at the beginning of a new day, new dawn. We're coming through the other side in retail in so many different ways. There's an argument that says we would have come through the other side anyway, even if it wasn't for COVID. And maybe it would have been another 5 years before we came out the other side. But what COVID has done, it accelerated everything for at least 5 years. And those 5 years would have been the last 5 years in the transformation and the rebirth of retail. And we've done it all in about 18 months. If you can imagine that we're all on a massive travelator, and the direction of travel on the travelator is that way. And as retailers, we've been trying to look forward. And we've been walking faster, and the travelator's got faster going back that way, and we've been jogging. And at the end, we're at full pelt. And we're at full pelt just to survive. Because the travelator was going that way. And if you didn't go fast enough, you fell off the back. And there's been some great names in retail that have done exactly that. They just haven't been able to run fast enough in the opposite direction to where the direction of travel was as far as retail, physical retail, especially the way we know it. And we're talking about, obviously, Topshop, Arkel Lacada brands, Topman, Debenhams. We've had, obviously, previously we've had Comet, Woolworths that fell off quite early in the speed of it. So these storeholds, these household names, fell off the travelator because they could not travel fast enough. And then we look at some of the amazing retailers we've historically put on a pedestal, like John Lewis, who really struggled. Even they're now running at full pelt, trying to save themselves from falling off the back of a travelator. But I actually believe we are on the cusp where that travelator now is it's slowed down, definitely slowed down. COVID has forced it to slow down. And we are through to the other side. Now, there's still some landmines around. So we've got to be careful and not get too carried away and run into the barley wheat and with our hands up and saying, oh, retail's going to be all great again. But retail will now start growing and evolving at a much rapider rate. And what we've seen with COVID, what's accelerated is the differential between physical retail and online retail. We had this massive disadvantage, which was the speed of the travelator, which was ridiculous business rates, ridiculous rents. So as a physical retailer, it was really tough. We were really pedaling fast just to keep standing still. Whereas on top of that, we had our competitors, which is online, without all the same cost base that we had to endure on taking some of our business. So we're losing business and our costs were going up. Well, that as well and truly now, I believe, coming, if not already come to an end. What we've seen spectacularly is the collapse of the shopping center industry, the way it worked. We've seen big shopping center owners actually go bust. We've seen people taking over the shopping centers and becoming realistic and allowing retailers to predominantly now be on a turnover rent, which has reduced costs. We've seen, since COVID, and it's taken COVID to do that, we've seen a suspension of business rates in the first year, and we've seen a reduction in business rates for this year. Now that needs to continue. Business rates can never go back to where they were. It will be disastrous, and I've told the Chancellor exactly that in those words. He did chuckle. They can never go back to where they were. So with lower rental costs, lower business rates, I can only see opportunity now for physical retail to start growing and prosper once again. And of course, what's the other thing that's happened is, I always use this analogy that when arguing with landlords of shopping centres, and I'm saying to them, look, why do I want to be in your shopping centre? I can buy £1 of retail for 20p of marketing online, or 25p of marketing, or whatever it is. You want rent of XP, rates of XP, then I've got to add some more staff on top. It's costing me 80p. Why am I going to open a shop in your shopping centre when it costs me 80p to buy a pound, or 70p to buy a pound, or 60p, when I can buy a pound for 20, 25p of turnover? So it was all wrong. Now, with rents down, with business rates down, there's also been a pickup on the cost of online marketing. I don't know if anybody's noticed that. PPC and social marketing has really shot up because of the demand. And it's driven by the online players who all of a sudden have to show growth over what was an exceptional year for them last year, but now have to show growth. So they are spending more and more marketing. So the cost of marketing online has gone up. The cost of doing business physically has gone down. I'm not saying they're perfectly equal yet, but it's a lot more competitive. So this is a wonderful time if you're thinking of having a physical presence somewhere. That doesn't, by the way, it doesn't mean you do not have an online presence. You must have an online presence. But if you're thinking of having a physical presence, this is time to do a deal. This is time to have an opportunity. And I believe it's really never been as positive as far as retail is concerned as it is now. As painful as it has been, and the fact that we've lost many of our colleagues on the way.
Do you feel, just purely from the retail sector's point of view, that the fact that, as you said, a lot of things that might have played out over 5 or 10 years happened so quickly and perhaps focused a lot of minds? I mean, you've talked about some of the shopping centre owners being more realistic about rents. Do you think in the long run that might actually have been a good thing? And I mean, obviously,
it's a great thing. It's a great thing. What you had, the shopping centres were managed by big, portly, white, middle-aged, older blokes, right, with big red noses, who spent a lot of time drinking great red wine, cozying up with the estate agents, right, artificially keeping rentals up, and it was a closed shop. Most of those have been shot now and fired because they made a right hash. And they, of course, they had to hold on to, that was their job. So they had to hold on. And they said, well, we're keeping value for our shareholders. That's changed. Reality has set in. Now, I actually believe that the decision that many shopping centre owners have made in allowing turnover rents and being sensible about rentals overall will pay dividends. Because as they attract people back into the shopping centres, you'll drive footfall back in there. Because people still enjoy physical retailing. It really is, you know, it's a leisure activity. But you must make sure you've got the right selection in your shopping centre. So it's been it's a hiccup for them at the moment, but I believe they'll get increase after increase after increase. But it'll be done in a structured way where the retailer can afford to pay because they're paying as a percentage.
And would you have any advice? I mean, obviously, if there are businesses here that are less than 18 months old, they may have had to start online anyway because, you know, it was pretty much impossible to have a location. But would you have any advice for people if they're starting to think, well, yeah, we've got all these online customers, but it would be great to get out and see them, to have a store or a physical presence, maybe a pop-up or something that they can do and get out and start interacting with the people that are buying from them?
Well, nobody's going to be more passionate about your business than you are they? No. So, I've just been chatting with some of the my SPS winners who've got stalls here. I'm just listening to them and the passion of their little businesses. It's fantastic. It drives me and gives me enthusiasm, gives me energy. So meeting your customer is really important. But just don't get carried away with your cost base. Don't commit yourself to a fixed cost base. Try and keep variables. You know, that is really important. Because things don't always just go up, they also go down, as we've all learned. So we've got to be realistic as far as that's concerned. But I really would encourage it. I think there's good opportunities out there at the moment. I know on the smaller retail size, local authorities will also have a rates reduction program in place. So you can do good deals. And landlords who've got empty shops need people in there, otherwise they have to pay the rates for an empty shop.
And in terms of your own business, I mean, obviously you've worked both online and offline. You've had a period where, with your retail where a lot of it had to go online for periods of time when the stores weren't allowed to open. have you come out the other side thinking differently about your business or about how you balance
Well,
it?
we've had this most amazing retail experiment because historically, I can tell you, we would have these conversations at every blasted board meeting. Is it time for us to shut our shops and just remain online? As that time arrived, we're losing money. It's not viable for us to have physical stores. We can't get landlords to play ball and reduce rents. We can't get the government to reduce business rates. What is the point? So these conversations really have been happening over the last few years before COVID. But definitely, COVID has been a forced experiment that allowed us just to trade online and has focused the mind of the people that you needed to buy into the concepts of reducing the physical cost base. Because all of a sudden, they lost you, and all of a sudden, they could see that you could still trade. But I'm a great believer in physical retail. I think the two, hybrid retailing, whatever you want to call it, I call it hybrid, you call it multi-channel, whatever you want to do, hybrid retailing is here to stay. It's not changing. It's not going away. Customers are now used to using technology. You know, you go to a restaurant, you get your phone out, you scan a barcode or you start a QR code to get the menu up. People have got used to it. In our changing rooms in our lingerie business, you know, we do a booking system now. You have to book on your phone, and before you have to walk in, which meant it was pretty well uneconomical for us because you'd have to member of staff just sitting there waiting. Whereas now you can actually do a booking system. Technology is bringing the two together, and people are far more used to using technology now to get through every day. Whether it's to come in here, you all have to do your NHS vaccine QR code, did you? They made me do it. I hope you did as well.
Yeah, it was just you.
Just me. But, you know, all of a sudden you've got your vaccine code to show them. You know, people are getting used to it. So hybrid retailing is here to stay. It'll be closer and closer. And technology has been growing at a rate of knots for a long time. But it's now far more affordable for as a small business to be able to integrate your stock system, your till system, just on an iPhone or an iPad, and run your store and your online on the same systems. You don't need multi-million-pound expensive tills to operate your business. You can now do it, the same thing, on the same software, pretty economically.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, a lot of what you're talking about is almost a sort of democratization of opportunity because, you know, the barriers to entry of getting out there have really come down. And
they have come down to levels of which I never thought in my lifetime I would see so quickly.
And as you said, I mean, if you look at, I mean, even the big names and some of those that have gone, you know, they were built up through great entrepreneurial spirit. Almost all of them started as barrows somewhere or, you know, a small outlet somewhere. You know, perhaps are we at, ironically, at a time when there are so many challenges, you know, could we even be looking at a golden age of retail, just an opportunity for a lot more fresh thinking, new people to come in and just give retail a go, basically?
Well, it's never been easier. It's never been easier to start a retail concept, a retail business now. You know, before it was just you needed 200-300 shops around the country to get exposure. You needed billions of pounds to be able to do it. Huge warehouses. You know, you can start a business now for, you know, not a lot of money from your bedroom, from one part of a shop as a concession or whatever. The barriers to entry have absolutely come down, and the only thing that's limiting people doing it now is their own ambitions and energy and imagination.
And it's interesting, just to repeat what you said, that having come through this period, and I'm sure, you know, sharpening up your online when that was all you could do, that your team has come through, you know, feeling so positive about the stores.
Well, what we've seen, very much so, is that the stores, now we've reopened, there's still a demand. We are seeing some growth, which is amazing. And I never thought, if you were asking me that question 14, 16 months ago, I would have said, God, it's going to be very long and very painful. You know, people are resilient. People have missed physical retail. They want to get out there again. They want to do the things they enjoyed before. They're not just going to do everything online. And what we're seeing is, even though footfall is slightly down and reduced, we're seeing bigger average spend right across the board in all the businesses. People, when they make a transaction, are spending more.
And I've heard that from a lot of retailers as well, actually, and not just in the UK, but across Europe, that when people go out shopping, they're tending to spend more. They're a bit more purposeful about why they're there. I said we were going to be positive, and we are, but we've got to deal with a couple of challenges. I mean, the first one is, as I said at the beginning, you have launched businesses or taken over businesses during difficult times before. You said before we came on, yes, okay, this is another economic cycle, but it feels different and it feels more challenging than some of those previous ones.
Yeah, I've been through 3 recessions, and during the recession, I've always been incredibly positive, and I've said to people, well, one thing's guaranteed, we're going to come out the other side of this, and, there'll be sunshine again, and life will be worth living. So let's get our motivation up, nose to the grindstone, and work through this. And that's exactly what's happened. This is very different this time. I actually believe we are through this particular, as far as retail is concerned, I think there's certainly some medical challenges still out there. But as far as retail is concerned, and where were we going? What was it transformed? That road, that travelator, where the hell was it going? I think we're there. I think we've arrived. And we'll still have challenges. I'm sure we'll probably still have further lockdowns or restrictions and stuff like that. But at least we know where we are now, and that is key. And it has been the reduction of physical costs and the hybrid model where your online and your physical customer relationship is exactly the same. It's not 2 different things. There is still some landmines out there that we've got to be careful of. And I'm sure we'll have some more hiccups. But as retailers are concerned now, I think we know where the land lies and where we have to spend our money, where we have to spend our investment, our colleagues' training, what we need to have as a business, the tools that we need to have within our business, the technology that we need to have that will be forever changing. Those things now, are pretty clear.
You talked about landmines, and a couple that have just come up in this immediate period, and will affect offline and online. One of them is enough HGV drivers. We're coming to a critical period, just looking around an exhibition like this and the diversity of places that everything comes from. How much of a concern is that to you as a retailer at the moment about how that's going to get sorted?
Well, I'm actually constantly surprised at how many half-wits you can get in one building. That's Westminster. And you get a lot in one building, I promise you. Because it isn't bloody difficult to see some of the challenges that we're having to suffer at the moment are going to get worse and deal with. But you can't get the action. There is a problem. We don't forget, does anybody remember a thing called Brexit? Yeah? Okay. Where's it gone? Has there been no recourse from it? Has nothing changed? All the stuff that we all said was going to happen has happened, but we haven't dealt with it. We just pushed it on the side. COVID's here. Forget Brexit, COVID's here. Well, we've got to realise that there is skill sets that we need to fill in the short term. It would be great if we could get everybody trained to be, HGV drivers. I don't know if anyone realised, but all the HGV training schools have been shut for over a year. So you ain't going to get any new ones, are you? And if people have gone back to other countries, then we're going to have a shortage. So we have to raise the ability for people to come back to the UK on work visas that want to come here and work in a sensible way. And yes, if we find out we've got a glut of HGV drivers in the future, marvellous. We can do what we need to, what we want to do, the ideology of what some people think the country voted for. That's the ones that can't read, they've got that ideology, not the voters, by the way. So, there is challenges, and we need government to step up to the plate and be responsible and take responsibility for what's happening out there. And ministers have to start acting as ministers, not as PR flunkies.
The other place where we've seen a shortfall in people, and it does seem to actually be a bit beyond Brexit as well, because it seems to be common across quite a bit of Europe and the US as well, is people changing career paths. We've seen it in hospitality. I mean, anyone goes to a restaurant or a cafe, we're seeing it in stores as well, that there has been a problem getting staff. Are there things that the sector or the government can be doing to help encourage people to say, retail is a great career? And in fact, again, it's another great example of where a lot of people that start at the literal shop floor, end up running businesses.
Well, if they took away the stupid rules on the apprenticeship levy, I don't know if you're aware, all retailers have to put money into an apprenticeship levy. And that apprenticeship levy is to be used for training. But of course, the things that you can use it for are so limited that most retailers don't use it. So it's sitting in the ether somewhere. So why wouldn't people reconsider their future when they've just had a year at home or 18 months at home and found new horizons? I mean, they'll all go to work, by the way. All those people have to get a job. They're not all going to sit working, waiting for the state to keep them. They're all going to have to work somewhere. They've just decided they don't want to do this anymore, but they want to do something else. I think it's important that we have the right training available for the industries and the jobs that are going to be required or are required. I think that's key, and that goes right across through senior education and universities.
One last question from me before we throw it open to you guys. So, as I say, don't be shy, and there should be somebody with a microphone that can, I'm sure, that can help you ask your question, or you may need to yell, one of the two. But it was just going back to opportunities and about space. One of the things that tends to exercise a lot in the UK is the Highstreet and how it's doing. What we have seen during COVID is a rise in neighbourhood. We refocus on the neighbourhood, more community retail, more community sense. I mean, obviously, it remains to be seen whether that stays. But again, that must throw open opportunities to independence, because having a sense of place, space, what you're all about has got to be a great thing.
In the days of open all hours, that famous retailer, Arkwright, convenience shopping. That's what it is. It's convenience shopping. You no longer don't want to get in your car and drive for 45 minutes or an hour when if you've got a good set of local stores, you're happy just to shop there, and it's convenient. There's going to be some considered purchases that your high street's not going to be able to supply you. But it is going to be able to supply you with a huge amount of what you need day to day. And as people spend more time working from home, they're just as happy to go to the high street, have a coffee, sit in a coffee shop, do some local shopping, and visit regularly, not just one day a week or one day a month, but actually going to the high street. And that's what we found during COVID. Robert Dyers, for instance, and Ryman, which we consider to be convenience stores, the customers are coming in 2 or 3 times a week because they knew we were there. And it was also, how I said, retail is a leisure activity. So convenience shopping is growing, and we've seen quite clearly in the market towns, in the high streets, our stores are doing incredibly well. Obviously, in big city centres and the City of London, we've already started shutting stores because where landlords have been silly, there's no way, it's Deadsville. There's hardly anybody there. There's no point sending people to work. But certainly in high streets, we've seen a great growth.
And would you foresee with some of your businesses opening in more sort of neighbourhood locations going forwards?
Yep. In fact, we had a meeting yesterday, and so there we are. For the last 2 years, we've been sitting there saying, well, we must shut our shops. We must shut some of the shops. We can't afford to pay the rates. We can't afford to pay the rents. We're going to end up being an online retailer. And then we sat there yesterday in a meeting, and we identified 200 sites that we're not going to open 200 stores, by the way, but 200 sites that we need to investigate further for new store openings that would make sense of the new way. And now's the time to do it while there is availability. There won't be in 2 years or 3 years' time.
Okay, sound advice. You heard it here first. Have we got any questions from our audience to... oh, there we go. One at the front, straight away. Thank you very much. And if you wouldn't mind saying who... Okay, lovely. Thank you. That's right.
Oh, what a gentleman. This is Steve Savage, everyone. A big hand. My name's Katie. I'm here with Hive, actually, just running up the event. So thank you for coming. My question is, you were talking about the sort of hybrid experience and booking these sessions for your bra fitting, things like that. Some of the themes that have come up during all the talks at the event so far are that people need to maintain this sort of consistency between their online and their offline experience. So obviously Mark mentioned that some people are going from online only into bricks and mortar or vice versa. So what would your advice be for someone who wants to maintain that sort of unique shopping experience if they're going from one to the other?
Okay, I'm not sure I understood the question, Katie. Keep which experience?
So, for example, one of the people was she sold to sort of young mums, so she'd come in and she'd have like an area for the prams and she'd talk to them and she'd give them that really personalised experience, but then she might be starting out online for the first time. How can you sort of make sure that experience is consistent across both digital and brick and mortar?
Your customers will keep it consistent. The fact that now you go into a store and if there's something tiny bit wrong with the store, there's a review immediately. If something's brilliant, it takes a while for people to write a review. But the customers have learned to share experiences, whether they're online or whether they're offline. And I can tell you, if there's anything wrong with your website or your store, the easiest thing to do is just listen to your customers now, because they're incredibly vocal now. So make sure you do listen, and that will help you actually get that experience. It's a different experience. The expectations of online experience are different to the expectations of face-to-face experience. So people are far more acceptive that that's two totally different experiences. But they're not exclusive to each other. People want both. They want both experiences. They want the convenience of double screening, watching Coronation Street and doing a bit of shopping. I know you do it. Don't look at me like that. But at the same time, and I don't really want much interaction. I just want it simple, delivered on time and clear. And there's other times they actually want to have that whole leisure experience. And it's when they want it. They want to dip in and dip out. We've become very demand-orientated consumer now. I mean, if you speak to the kids, the thought of them sitting down to watch something for an hour. I mean, my grandkids said, seriously, an hour? You know, anything more than 2 minutes, that's it. 3 minutes, full whack. You know, they don't want to be doing something, and that's what we have to be able, this is that hybrid I said to you, that we have to be able to offer to the consumer. The thing that they want when they want it. And it's not always the same thing. They don't always want to be pampered. There's times they want to be pampered, and there's times they just want efficiency. And there's times where they just want the lowest price, right? Which is a tricky one, because you can't have everything, right? So, you know, that's how we are. That's the new consumer. Very demanding.
Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. And I think there's a question from that gentleman there, is that right? And then we'll come on to you. Thank you.
Well, actually, it's a similar sort of question. It doesn't seem very long ago that we were talking about the way to save bricks and mortar was to give people experiences in store. And I wonder how relevant you think that still is
That
today.
old cliche.
Yeah.
That old cliche. So we were all using that cliche. I'm as guilty as everyone else. I know Mark has. I've read some of his work.
Absolutely. I'm still using it.
Time to stop. So we were using that cliche when we were on this travelator and we didn't know when it was going to bloody stop or when it's going to slow down. And we thought, well, there must be something else we can do. It's our fault. You know, there must be something we can do. Oh, we will give experiences. Well, what is that experience? It changes. It's not one thing. You know, one of the most famous retailers in the world, one of the most exclusive, if not the most exclusive retailer and brand in the world, Louis Vuitton. Yeah, well known, very exclusive. massively expensive. What a shit experience. So if you want to buy, but hold on. So if you want to go to Selfridges and go to the Louis Vuitton section, you have to queue up to get in. I've seen people queuing up for an hour to go in to buy a product. If you want to go to Louis Vuitton section in Harrods, you have to queue up. I've seen people queuing up for an hour. I think they make great product. I'm a fan. But I ain't queuing up for an hour to go and give you my money. What a terrible experience. That's an experience. But the strength of a brand, an amazing brand, who I'm a fan of, people do that. So if I want to interact with that brand, as we said earlier, I will not go to their shops. I interact online. Because I know what I want, I'll order it, it'll arrive. I am not queuing up. That's an experience. So we've got to be careful. It was a cliche that we all used to use as a way of thinking we need to drive the customer back into the shop. And I think that's just, we're a lot clearer now. The fact is, we're not going to drive the customer back to the shop. Our job is to give the customer what they want, when they want it, how they want it, and try and do it in a profitable way. And that's not easy. But it's becoming clearer now. And it's for us now to actually make sure that we make ourselves available to our customer in a way that our customer wants to interact with us.
Thank you. Young lady here at the front had a question.
It's two questions really in one. I used to work for a competitor of yours for 10 years, and I started online myself. What I find is we get no help with trying to source the products, especially for the larger lady. So how do you cope with the Brexit and all your shops being stocked fully? And my daughter here, she is just going to be starting up a business, and she suffers quite badly with dyslexia. And we want to find out if there was any battles you had to overcome, to get into business.
Wow, the dyslexia subject is another subject that I'm happy to talk about all day long, because it's a subject very close to my heart. I'm not sure today here is the right forum for it, other than then treat it as a positive. It can be a positive. The things you have to do in your life as you grow up to overcome dyslexia, the tools gives you amazing tools for the future, because you have to have loads of workarounds, do things in a different way to everybody else to achieve the same thing, but it's problem solving. You become a really good problem solver. But that's another conversation. You can be successful with dyslexia. I know lots of really successful people with dyslexia. I know lots of entrepreneurs who have got dyslexia. And the reason that they're entrepreneurs, by the way, is because nobody would give them a bloody job because they were dyslexic. So they had to go and do it for themselves. That's why you got so many entrepreneurs with dyslexia. So it's not a bad thing. You have to learn. You learn as you grow up. All those life lessons are really good. And as far as products concerned, at the moment, it is very tricky getting product. I mean, container costs have been going to nuts. So pre-COVID, we were paying 1,200 quid for a 40-foot container. Now it's 20 grand. So I can tell you now, there ain't going to be big mug Eiffel plastic products from the Far East in the shops this Christmas, because nobody can afford to ship it. Low value, big products. I was having a chat with somebody in the industry the other day, and they told me that they have got tens and tens of millions of pounds of product which is lying on the dockside that they're not shipped. They've paid for, but they're not shipping it to the UK because it's uneconomical, because they'll never be able to sell it for the price to recoup the shipping costs. So they might as well cost of just storing it in the Far East and maybe bring it over next year, because it's just not economical. So it's a tough time at the moment. But again, you know, someone's going to pick up on it. There's a lot of profiteering, blaming COVID. Apparently the government put taxes up today because of COVID. So there's a lot of profiteering going on in the shipping companies at the moment, and that needs to be looked at. Last numbers we saw was the shipping company, I think the combined profits of the top 6 shipping companies of this year, or the year just gone, was more than the combined profits of the last 10 years. But there's no profiteering going on.
Do you, or can you envisage supply chains getting shorter and you start to source from closer to...
Well, again,
hand?
is this the shock that we need? Is this the shock that we all need? To say we can't now rely on bringing product in from the Far East, that we need to find ways of producing product closer to home. And you know, some of the industries that we've let go over the past 100 years, maybe that they've got to come back, and we have to retrain people to produce the product.
Absolutely. More questions. There's some at the back there, so should we, there's a young lady there, and I saw somebody over in the corner there. We'll try and come to you in a second.
Hello. I am a buyer for an online retailer, and I'm just really interested to know how you see this Christmas shopping playing out, both for online retailers and offline retailers.
How I see what play now?
Christmas shopping,
Christmas.
just in general, for consumers, for retailers, for buyers.
Honestly, I think if our stores are open, fingers crossed, people will still want to go and do some store shopping and some leisure activity. If it becomes like a zoo because everybody's there, people are going to shop online. But Mrs. P, for instance, I mean, she's one of those people now that wants to do her online shopping and she wants to do her physical shopping. I think people will do both. That's where we've got to. As I said earlier, that's what people want. They actually want to do both. And actually, sometimes they get fed up with sending things back, but also they want to try things on. But like all retailers, sometimes we haven't got all our products in our stores. So the only option they have, or we might not have the sizes, the only option they have is to order online. And people, again, are getting used to that. So you don't have to have all your products actually in the store. They can see it. If it's not in their size, they can order it. So I do think it'd be a hybrid year, but hopefully the stores will be open.
There's a lady right at the back over there. Wouldn't mind doing her, and then there was a lady sitting down in front of her after that. Or we can do it. Perfect.
Hi Theo, my name's Jo. I've got my own store which I've been running for about 8 years, and I'm just looking into opening a second store. I've found a location. Can you please give me some advice on how to deal with the estate agent? So the price that's quoted, the rent, I would like to pay sort of half of that, but I don't know how to sort of begin that negotiation. I know you talked about, and other people have spoken to me about the percentage of turnover model, but I'm not really sure how that, would I pay a base rate plus a percentage on top of a certain level of turnover? Who decides that? How do I start that negotiation?
Well, you start, Joe, with the premise of, you know, you always know when an estate agent is lying. His lips move, or her lips move. And that's a joke for all of my friends that are estate agents. I use it all the time. It's an old one. But the fact remains, it's got to work for you. If it doesn't work for you, then don't even do it. And then it's got to work for them, for the landlord. If it doesn't work for the landlord, they're not going to let you in. So between you, you've got to find something that works. You could do something very simple and say, there is no base. I'm going to pay 8%. It could be 10%, 12%, 15%. I don't know what products you sell, what your margins are. You know, if you were selling, brown goods and white goods and stuff like that, then it's low margin stuff. You can't pay a large percentage, but there'll be a bigger turnover. So it's a lower percentage of a bigger turnover. So again, it depends on your products. But you've got to give them the opportunity to at least get to the point where they can see they can reach their aspirations. But also, if things are not working out for you, you've got to be realistic to make sure that you don't go bankrupt. And if you're opening another shop, and that's always the biggest challenge. One shop, you're running it. You're the free labor. You're putting the sweat in there. The minute you open another shop, you've really got to rely on other people, and you're going to be paying them. They're not going to do it for love. So your cost base increases and gets fixed. So you do need to, it's that scaling up is the key thing. But I think you've got to sit down with them and ask them to put something to you. But the reality is, you do not want to get into a 5-year review cycle with upwards only reviews. And you want to try and get a break clause in as well, in case things don't work out. So you want to give yourself as many options as you can possibly think of, even if they're unlikely to occur. And then if you're going to negotiate some of those away, think about the ones you're going to negotiate away. Do your wish list. And give him your wish list and see what he or she comes back with.
Brilliant, thank you. That's some very good advice there. Now, there was a lady just in front sitting down with dark hair who was waiting very patiently. Thank you.
You're welcome. I have a small jewellery and handbag business in Blackpool. Long story short, I started opening it in January 2020, wanted it ready for Valentine's Day. Obviously, it's jewellery, ladies. Shutdown, lockdown, done. Gave me a bit of time to design the shop how I want it, fair enough. I then eventually opened in June. In this time I have missed Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Easter, all the main big shopping times. I'm in a small area, in a small emporium, 8 shops. There's a restaurant with us, a garden centre, a pet shop. We're out of Blackpool town centre. We try to market it as best we can. Once I got started up again and got it going in June, I then got another lockdown. I missed Christmas because at the same time, my website providers let me down too and killed my website. So I couldn't even sell online. Now, fortunately, I work for a living as well. I'm a legal secretary. So I could work from home during the lockdown. I could earn the money to keep my shop open. Now, what I want to do is expand my shop, right, starting from like now, but what I want to do is create another emporium in the centre of Blackpool, where 8 or 9 little businesses can come together and come and be in that shop where we've no business rates, because we're small units, like a little market, in an emporium, where we've got the footfall, but like you said, the rent, how do you work out the rent when you've got several small businesses working together, if you're doing it on turnover?
Because, again, I don't know what all your different margins are.
Right.
I think you've got to look at the aspirations. The simple thing is, it depends how much space you're all taking. You work out your space, and you work out your turnovers. And you're going to have to use a formula on that, between the space you're occupying, the formula, and then what the landlord is happy to accept, and find that happy medium. Because unless you're going to take exactly the same space.
Right.
If you're all going to take exactly the same space, then it's dead easy.
Yeah, I think there will be some more complications than that. One's going to be babies, one's going to be Julian handbags, etc.
Exactly.
It's going to be different things. Yeah.
But I don't see why I should be paying the same rent as you if I'm only taking up half the space.
So we work it out between ourselves, who's doing what sort of rent we're prepared to do, what our turnover is likely to be, and then negotiate.
Yep.
Thank you.
Brilliant, and I should just add that the local authorities are doing a lot of work now, so it might be worth speaking to those as well, because, yeah. Somebody very patiently is waiting right at the other side. I'm sorry to send you right the way across there with the stripy top on. Dress, sorry, stripy dress. I apologise. You won't ask a question if you keep being cheeky.
I've got a big mouth, I would have been all right. Hi, Theo. My name's Tina. I've just launched a sustainable kidswear brand at this show. I was a retail buyer that got made redundant due to COVID from one of those big chains that you've said. I've been a retail buyer for 15 years in the kidswear industry. just giving you a bit of background. I'm shaking, don't know why.
Well, you've met a lot. If you've been one of those companies, then you've met a lot more scary people than me.
Yeah, for sure. Won't mention any names. But I've launched here at the show, and on my day one at the show, I actually sold all of my stock that was supposed to do 2 shows. So thank you.
Well done to you.
Thank you.
You are exactly one of the people that you just said. Sorry to interrupt, Tina. Exactly the sort of people you said, oh, people are not going back to work. No, because they've decided they're going to do something else.
Yeah, well,
and that's my point.
I was pregnant when I got made redundant, so I decided to set up a sustainable kidswear brand to give a better future for them, and it's all based on endangered animals, so I'm trying to raise awareness and do greater good for the environment too. But now I've done that, I'm just like, shit, what do I do now? Excuse my language. And how do I now? Because I came here to launch, and I was going to do another trade show, but can't cope with that demand. What would be my next step and to get it to market? Because I launched a website thinking that I'd be able to sell all the product on my own website. I'm a buying background, not a marketing expert. I've got no idea in marketing, to be honest with you. But it's what would be my next stage to get it to market from doing shows like this. Then what would your suggestion be?
Well, if you've already started selling wholesale, which effectively is what you've done, so your margin's lower than you anticipated because you're going to sell.
Yeah.
Can you create more product, or have you got lead times?
I've got a whole peripheral of product. I'm a product girl. I've got a huge library.
No, but I'm just the same SKUs. Can you replenish those SKUs?
Oh yeah, I've already sent repeats from being at this show, so I've got repeats placed.
So how long will that take to repeat?
It's coming from Turkey, so 8 weeks.
So not terrible. I mean, the simple answer is if you sold those products, you're going to repeat those products because you're going to try and sell them on your website.
Yeah.
You've now opened another avenue of sales, which is wholesale, which is different to direct retail. I'm sure you know all this.
Yeah.
But the margins are going to be quite different. Plus, you're competing with yourself.
Yeah.
Because that retailer will be no doubt having that product online as well, will they?
Yeah.
So you've got to. So the price is set.
The prices are set, yeah.
That tells you where you've got to be. And there's no reason why you can't do both, by the way. Lots of people do both.
Yeah, that's what I've planned. But it's just getting it to the next market, like to push it out further.
Well, you just sold out. So how much further do you want to sell? I mean, the point is, you've worked in departments. You know you're going to need help. If you're going to increase your SKU numbers, and you're going to increase your business, then you're going to have to put somebody out there. Are you going to be just buying and selling, or will you have to get someone else to help you sell?
No, I need someone like you.
Yeah.
It's not Dragon's Den. Can we just remind everyone of that?
I'm not sure I'm affordable at the moment. I've just come back from 6 weeks holiday. I'm not even up to speed yet. I'm just trying to wake up. I just had a Red Bull in the car park to get me going. You think I'm joking? Ask this lot at the front here. 2 cups of coffee, a tin of Red Bull. I'm still not with it. Listen, enjoy the experience, right? As well as being a new mum. You know, enjoy the experience. You've been forced to do what you're doing, which is, you know, all of us sometimes need that push, and that came along for you. It sounds like you know what you're doing, and the only thing I'm going to say to you is don't overextend yourself. Rome wasn't built in a day. A few swallows don't make a summer. So just be careful, tread carefully. You've got time. Test and repeat, test and repeat. That old adage, test and repeat. If you're doing it local as well, 8 weeks, Turkey, you could bring that down to 4 weeks with a bit of luck. So you could actually really work on that to bring that down to 4 weeks, and then you can really go for it without the risks involved, because you can sell it, then make it. So good luck and well done.
Excellent. Right, we're really running out of time now, but has anyone got any urgent questions, short questions? Got a gentleman there and a lady over there. We'll do those 2. Can you make the questions nice and short? And Theo, if you wouldn't mind being quite concise as well, and we'll try and wrap up on time.
I've been told.
Absolutely. So earlier you mentioned the rise in shipping costs and container costs, and before that you mentioned that the problems that COVID has brought up are now starting to sort of fizzle out. Do you imagine that the issue with the shipping costs and container costs are fizzling out?
Well, they're not sustainable for a start. because you'll see great big swathes of the Far East industry shut down. So someone's going to have to do something about it, and it'll be as much pressure coming from the Far East as there should be from the half-wits at Westminster. Who eventually, by the way, they're fully aware of it, but it's just not on their priority list because there's other really more important things to do, like what Dylan the dog has eaten. So, you know, that will have to come down. It's not sustainable, is the answer. Painful as it is at the moment.
Thank you. And we have the lady there as the last question, just across there. And that'll have to be the last one. I'm so sorry we can't do any more.
Thank you. Hi, Theo. My name is Richie, and thank you for all the amazing advice you've given. I wanted to know, do you have any mentorship program at the moment for prospective traders or someone who is I'm looking to start a business. I'm not a trader yet, but I watch you on telly and I see how you, you give this advice on starting your businesses and things to do. So I was just wondering if you've got a mentorship program. Is there anything, or do you have a link to someone that can mentor? Because obviously with business, as I say, it's a lot of risk-taking, and you just need someone to mentor you from the beginning. I would appreciate that if there's something like that.
Sadly, I haven't. I've got loads and loads of investments that I try and spread myself thin over with a great team of people. But you could start by looking at the SBS website, and there's loads of advice on that, and it's worth following through. But have a look at that.
And it's worth noting the SBS stand is just over there as well, which obviously Theo's been involved in for this year along with Autumn Fair. So, yeah, go and take a look at that, definitely. Well, look, I'm aware that we're right on the edge of time. I think we could have probably gone on for another hour quite easily, but we won't. We said we're going to be positive, so my very last question is, Theo, as we look at going towards Christmas, what are the reasons to be cheerful about retail right now?
Well, let's just fingers crossed that we have no more restrictions and we're allowed to get on with it. There's lots and lots and lots. First of all, the consumer coffers are full. People haven't been spending money. They've not been going on holiday. Yes, they've done their gardens, but as I mentioned earlier, people are looking for reasons to spend. And when they are going to stores, they are spending more. I'm hearing that from everybody. We're seeing it from our own experiences. So people are looking to spend money. There is opportunities out there. The level playing field is slowly arriving. So those of you who think, well, I'm never going to have my own shop, I'm only going to have this little secondary website. Well, don't settle for secondary websites. There's lots of affordable, good websites now. There's no reason for you to have a secondary website. And make sure that you market that website properly. You put the efforts into social and things that are going to drive people to that website. And if you are thinking of getting a physical store, then I don't believe there's a better time to actually do it than over the next 6 to 12 months.
Fantastic. Well, look, that is a very positive note to end on. Good luck to everyone who's heading into the Christmas trading, and good luck with everyone here. Thank you so much for coming along. And I wonder if you could thank Theo for some fantastic advice and anecdotes along the way.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone.